Ishtatara Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I can hear my voice coming back at me. Is it an echo? Anyway, so let's begin. We might have to take a look.
This chapter, can you kind of give us a little summary?
I can. That's what I'm saying. I didn't get a chance to sit down beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a little summary last time we read. Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's just start. That's why we've gone back one page.
Okay.
I didn't get time to sit down beforehand, and
no, it's okay.
So let's have some hands up for reading again, as is usual.
I can try.
Those who have the book with them. Those who have the book.
Okay.
Okay, Mob Chandravani, looks like you're the one. Welcome back. You can begin reading. We might stop so we can all be on the same page of where we are actually, so we can understand it. So 395.
Right.
That's it, yeah.
The Vedas declare that both the Supreme Lord and the living entities are in an eternal quest for the taste of transcendental pleasure. In this regard, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur cites the well-known verse. I will let you.
Rashovai Sharasham hi evayam lapvanandi bhavati.
He himself is ras, the taste or mellow of a particular relationship, and one who achieves this ras certainly becomes anandi, filled with bliss. There cannot be any argument about the assertion that all living entities perform activities for the taste they derive from those acts, or more precisely, for the taste of the pleasure they derive from those acts. And the same can be said for any spiritual aspirant. Thus, the taste a devotee derives from bhakti inspires his advancement and nourishes his determination. Rasa nurtures sankalpa. It should be emphasized that the taste and moods of devotion in practice must be in conformity with the devotee's aspired goal. Just as sadhana must correspond to sadhya, so the taste of practice should also conform to the taste one aspires for and at perfection. Would you want to explain that a little bit, please?
Yeah, well, yeah, let's try to explain this. Well, I think it's a very kind of quite profound point.
Yes.
That we exist for pleasure. Now, the Sanskrit language describes or uses a pleasure in the using the word rasa. But the word rasa is a very deep word, and it explains many, many aspects of pleasure, tastes. And specifically the taste that the Lord enjoys is bhakti, is actually love. And that's why Krishna is known as the king, a well-known verse is Rasovaisya Rasam. So he himself is rasa. That is Krishna. He is Rasa Raj. You heard this statement, Rasa Raj? This name, there's a devotee called Rasa Raj. So he's the king of all rasa. Yeah. And now then Marge is speaking about let me go down a bit. So the same, we need, or we actually are inspired by rasa. Yeah, like you just come back from India, just come back from the Holy Dham. So in the activities we're doing bhakti, it should give us a particular experience. or rasa. And that inspires us to further commit ourselves. And then Marj then is just translating that commitment into making determinations. So based on what we've experienced, we actually want to experience more of the same. So therefore we make determinations, for instance, to increase our rounds or to at least maintain our specific number of rounds we chant. Yeah. And then that will, again, that in itself will nurture and inspire us further. But then Marge speaks about that here. It should be emphasized that the tastes and moods of devotion in practice must be in conformity with devotees' aspired goal. So I think Maharaj is going to go on to explain that our ultimate goal is not Vaikuntha, it's not Lord Narayan, it's not, at the end, it's not Lord Nrsingadev, it's not Lord Ram. As you know, our goal in the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it's Jugala Kishore Radha Krishna. Yeah. So we want to develop that taste or that rasa that's in regards, okay, we may not have achieved that, but that's the direction we want to go in. So the sadhana that we do should correspond to developing that particular taste of mellow in relationship to Radha Krishna. Yeah. So he said the taste of practice. So that's before Haganuga, the taste of practice should ultimately be in that direction. Did that help somewhat?
Yeah, because it's the sentence what I really wanted to understand was rasa nurtures sankalpa. So you have sankalpas. And I was
Yeah.
saying,
So sankalpa, another word is like it. You further commit yourself. It's a further
yeah,
determination.
I
So
wanted to
yeah,
rasa with
further
that.
determination. Yeah, like for instance, it's Ekadashi, and I chanted extra rounds. That was such a wonderful experience for me to chant those extra rounds. So I want to do the same thing again. I want to make a determination that every Ekadashi I'm going to chant extra rounds. And then Raj gets into more detail of it. The actual rasa that's experienced should be in conformity to our goal.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, which Raj is speaking a lot about. Yeah. All right.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone out there? Please feel free to ask. Okay, continue reading a bit more if you like. There's one hand up there I can see.
One may ask, what happens when, in the matter of taste, there is incongruity to the principle of the practitioner and the means of practice should be in accord with their goal?
All right, so incongruity means it doesn't match. It doesn't line up.
Okay.
Let's see what it says.
Okay. It is true that even spiritual taste can become a distraction from or even unfavorable to the goal. Although this topic has been discussed in an earlier chapter, we quote Raghunath Das Goswami in our defense. Give up attraction for Lord Narayan, which leads to the world of Vaikuntha. O mind, in Raj worship Radha and Krishna, two philanthropists who give away the jewel of pure love. Our answer to the question then is, a devotee must abandon tastes that are not in conformity with his goal. Returning to the taste that nourishes love, we should remember that sadhana bhakti is about a systematic awakening of the most converted taste.
Converted taste. The most wanted.
Converted taste. Krishna Prema. As a devotee becomes purified, he increasingly tastes the development of that love by virtue of decreasing conditioned states. This is exacting transition from lust to love. In the following verse, Lord Krishna explains that the impetus to move up the staircase of sadhana is the increasingly spiritual taste that a devotee relish as he progresses. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing just engagement by ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. Again, it should be noted that just as sadhana has different tastes and moods, so too does prema. For that reason, a devotee must carefully chart the course for which he aspires. He should know the details of the goal through the guidance of his spiritual master and through the scriptures approved by his guru.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions about that? Shall I try and give a little summary? Like, for example, there is wonderful descriptions of Lord Narayan, it's found. You can find them in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And also there's a wonderful description, actually, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives of Lord Narayan. And then he gives a description of Krishna. So if someone needs to mute, one second. Okay, try again. What does that sound like? Someone in a spaceship just flying in from Mars. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives like an experiment that one can do, and I think we did read it a few months ago, where there's a beautiful description of Lord Narayan, complete describing his earrings, his beautiful lotus eyes, and his complexion, and his ornaments, and his decoration. Then there's a description given of Krishna, and he asks us to compare the two. And the point that he's making out is that the description of Krishna is very, very, very sweet. So compared to the description of Lord Narayan, but the description of Lord Narayan is very nice. But as far as our cultivation, we want to expose ourselves more to descriptions of Radha Krishna. And we're going to learn to relish that because that's our goal. Other persons and different sampradayas may be, for instance, hearing in detail descriptions of Lord Ram, etc. Yeah. Or if you're Sri Vaishnava, you're going to be hearing about the glories of Lord Vishnu and the different Vishnu expansions. Yeah. So we have to be, as he says here, that's why he quotes Raghunath Das Goswami, and our main canon of scripture, apart from Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the obvious, is the main one, is the works of the Goswamis. Yeah. And they're going to describe Radha Krishna, ultimately. And ultimately, they're going to describe Madhurya Rasa relationship, yeah, Radha Krishna. Yeah. So that's why he quotes Raghunath Das Goswami. He says, give up attraction for Lord Narayan, which leads to the world of Vaikuntha. O mind in Raj, worship Radha Krishna, the two full empress who give away the jewel of purity. So sometimes they can be quite, the Goswamis here, Raghunath Das Goswami is being quite direct here. Give up. If you have any attraction to Lord Narayan, you should give it up. And it's difficult to understand probably for beginners in Krishna consciousness, because we should be, if we're attracted to whatever form we're attracted to, that's actually good. But then as we progress, and in Bhagavad Gita, it's quite interesting, Prabhupada in one purport, anyone know that purport? I think it's 9th chapter, where Prabhupada actually describes quite directly that a devotee should not be attracted to any other form of the Lord other than a two-armed form, the lotus-eyed Krishna. And in the most confidential knowledge in the purport in chapter 9. Yeah. All right, so that's any questions on that or comments?
I'm just thinking like Lord Narayan, picture of Lord Narayan and picture of Krishna. like Krishna would be all like gluey, soft, useful.
Yeah, you can say that was soft, sweet is a good description for Krishna.
Yeah, yeah. And his smile and that.
But
Very,
but it's not as if we have something against Lord,
no,
Lord
no, no,
Narayan. It's just a
no.
case of rasa. From the perspective of rasa, there is more with Krishna. The experience is greater. His loving exchanges are very unique compared to Lord Narayan. So it's more in that sense. It's the Goswamis describe it as being more of an more. There's more rasa. The actual rasa is very much more sweeter and more deeper
But
in
with
relationship to Krishna.
Narayan, it's awe and reverence, isn't it?
Yeah, that's his own reverence.
And with
Yeah.
Krishna, it's like personal.
Yeah, well, Lord Narayana worship is personal, but it's all in reverence from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
From Lord Narayana, you start with awe and reverence of Lord Narayana, and you finish with awe and reverence of Lord Narayana. But with Krishna, it's different. You actually begin your spiritual development by understanding the Lord's opulences. But then, as we progress, we become more aware of Krishna, the personality, and we become more aware of the affection that the residents of Raj have with Krishna. And we appreciate that relationship. And that relationship is not awe and reverence. Yeah. But we have to practice, we have to worship. That's why Prabhupada always would say that we actually worship Radha Krishna, but in the beginning, but in our stages, then we worship the Radha Krishna Vigraha, Murti, in the mood of awe and reverence, so that we train ourselves not to make offenses. So it's a very interesting subject. The development of the appreciation of the rasa with Radha and Krishna is something that's going to be an internal experience. Externally, we maintain the worship of Krishna with great awe and reverence, like we come before Radha Krishna, we put our hands together and we chant Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That's all awe and reverence. Yeah. We don't like, yeah.
Internally, can you be more
What? Sorry?
internally you can be more like personal. Like you
Yeah.
come in front of the deities and service you do, it's got to be on reverence.
Yeah,
But
because it's a public temple. It's a public temple, and that's the example that one always wants to show. So yeah, otherwise, say for example, if someone is externally manifesting a so-called intimate relationship with Krishna, and they want to express that, I mean, how do they do it on the altar? Do they go and steal Krishna's lunch? Do they go on the altar and steal Krishna's lunch, or do they pick the? You get the idea. No, we don't. That's why Shivaram Samaraj often mentions that Raganuga, or this more appreciation of the personality of Krishna, is really a religion of the mind. It's appreciated within, yeah, through bhajan of the holy name and hearing Bhagavatam 10th canto. But everyone, there's a lot of very advanced devotees in our movement who are very much relishing Raja Bhakti, but they're going to come before the altar at deity greeting with hands folded, praying, looking up to the altar. The altar opens at a certain time. It's regulated. The dressing is not Krishna dressed in the forest. He's got jewels on. He's really opulent. Yeah. But then internally, one may be appreciating more and more Mother Yasoda's exchange with Krishna, Radharani's exchange with Krishna, etc. But that will be Yeah, that would be experienced through one's hearing and chanting. All right, so Marge is describing that the sankalpas that we make and the determination should be with that goal in mind. Yeah, we're clear on the goal. Yeah, we just described the goal. It's more the Radha Krishna and the mood of Vrindavan. So if we have that very firmly in our mind, then the determinations that we make should be in line with that ultimate achievement and not to the Lord of Vaikuntha.
Another thing I was thinking was like here, Raghunath Das Goswami, the Goswamis would be speaking like this because they are the associates of Radha and Krishna.
Yes.
So their mood is just Radha and Krishna only, you know.
Yeah, so and sometimes they get quite carried away.
Yes,
They describe like this: give up attraction to Lord Narayan. Actually, well, you should be attracted to Lord Narayan in the beginning state, but that's love.
Yeah.
That's he's expressing his love and affection for Radha. He's strong, loving. Even there's stronger words they say, especially Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur in there's one book he describes all different prayers to Vrindavan, and he says if anyone asks me to leave Vrindavan, then I will kill them. So I don't mean he means it literally, but his love inspires them to speak in that way. Yeah. And even they say, I will never leave Vrindavan, even if the residents of Vrindavan are gossiping all day about how the bad neighbors are. Still, I will not give up their association. If they're just speaking Gramya Gata, still they're residents of Raj, and I honor the dust on their feet. So they get quite animated. You know?
I remember the example of, is it Raghunath Das Goswami, the austerities he performs, and he drinks the buttermilk, a small glass of buttermilk. It's
Yeah.
because my name's there. That's why, yeah, I remember that always like, and then he was given a bigger glass of buttermilk in a different glass, and then you know what happened. Like he says, where did this come from? And then he's been told where it came from, and he just like threw it away because anything.
Yeah, because it came from the actual leaf came from Chandravali's group. It came from where she is based, Chandravali. So when he heard about that, he became really angry.
So I was thinking how devoted they are to Radha.
Yeah, they are obsessed with Radha. They're so obsessed with in a very possessive way. Yeah, so it's something. So we will manifest in their bhajan often. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples of that where there's other examples. It doesn't come to mind now. Where the Goswamis get quite defensive of their relationship with Radha and Krishna. All right. Any
can I just ask a quick question? Sorry
Please.
for my ignorance, but like
No,
say
Balaji,
Tirupati Balaji and Srinathji, are they in the mood for worship to Narayan then?
Yeah, that's in reverence. Balaji, Srinathji, as far as I know, it's all Vishnu, different Vishnu forms. Yeah.
Okay, so, right. Like you said, in reverence.
Yeah.
Rather than the sweetness.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean sometimes these experiences can actually help us in our spiritual life. Like when you go to these temples, they're big and they're awe-inspiring, and you go there and you may get quite overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because of the whole atmosphere, and and we shouldn't deny it. But actually, for the details of our spiritual practice, we need to take our meditation and inspiration to the forms of Radha and Krishna.
Yes, the sweetness mellows.
Yeah. So generally, devotees, when they're taking darshan of Srinathji and others, and these other deities, they will be praying for developing, or they will be praying to them to smooth their path towards Radha Krishna.
Ah, okay.
That's the prayers of Gaudiya Vaishnavas when they pray to Lord of Shringadev. They're praying to please my Lord, please remove all the impediments so I can fully develop my loving relationship with Radha or whatever it may be. When they visit these other temples, they will be praying to the Lord at the temple for mercy in regards to developing their affection for Raj Bhakti.
Okay, so it's ultimately going to Radha and Krishna, but via.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your attraction and that's your mood, yeah. Your mood may be different. Your mood may be predominantly towards Sri Natji. And it doesn't, and that's not wrong exactly, but the family that we are in, we happen to take spiritual birth in.
Yes.
For our information, is generally directing everyone towards Radha Krishna and Raj Bhakti. But there may be some devotees who really they feel more comfortable or more at home with worship of Lord Narayan.
Right. Yes.
And then their sadhana and their sankalpas would be in that direction.
In that direction. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
No problem. Yeah. All right. Perhaps we have another reader. Kunamai, you have your hand up there. Can you see now? Kunamai?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, you pressed the right
I just
button.
played with all the buttons and it worked.
Well done. So we're on. Now let us turn to the taste in the state of sadhana. So this will be an interesting discussion. Okay.
The first stage of pure devotion is pure faith, and its mood is of conviction in the divinity of Krishna and of service to him. That conviction is a taste that flavors bhakti. But when faith is not pure, the resultant taste of bhakti is mixed with a taste for enjoyment, yogic powers, or liberation. By contrast, pure faith fixes a devotee to a spirit of conviction, which can easily be called the foundation of all sankalpas. The next stage is sadhusang, or devotee association. Devotional service is either the practicing or perfected stage inseparable from devotee association. In the quest for the form of the Lord that attracts his devotions most, a Vaishnava finds that Krishna is never alone, but is always in the company of devotees whose mood complements that form. That is the way of bhakti, and a devotee should be keen to associate with Vaishnavas who are more advanced than he, for such devotees can bestow, enrich, and direct his relish for sadhana. Thus, a regulative principle of devotional service is associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. The additional taste brought by sadhusang is the fraternity and security of serving in the company of Krishna's servants and associates. When a devotee is inspired to systematically practice the regulative principles of devotional service, he has reached the stage of bhajan kriya. Here, devotional service reveals a variety of tastes, including fulfillment coming from transcendental knowledge, a sense of direction from systematic practice, and optimism from a perception of sadhya. Such devotion is unsteady at first due to the presence of bad habits. This is anartha nivritti. However, to the degree that bhakti frees a devotee of past karma, the taste for service solidifies. Rupa Goswami gives two symptoms of such devotion, Klesh Agni and Subhada, freedom from the effects of past karma and entrance into the life of auspiciousness and respectively. respectively.
Okay, should we just pause there? Any curiosities or questions on this section?
We talked about this Klesha, Agni, and Subhada. Was it in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani?
Yeah, that's in Nectar of Devotion. Probably we surely covered it in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani as well. There's two stages there's Rupa Goswami, he gives 3 stages of bhakti. One is sadhana bhakti, one is bhava bhakti, and one is prema bhakti. And for development of each, he gives two symptoms. So there's 6 symptoms in all. So the 2 symptoms that manifest at the stage of sadhana, at the stage when one is more steady, is these 2 here, klesh agni, which means the happiness. And Maharaj is translating this verse from Nectar Devotion in regards to taste. So the experience and the emotion, or the rasa, or the taste that's experienced, it puts into insignificance the miseries in the material world. They are no longer a prominent factor in our lives, because one is relishing bhakti. So that's kleshagni. In other words, the miseries which still may be there externally, they do not affect the devotee anymore. They do not affect their internal resolve and taste for Krishna bhakti. So that's klesh agni, means they're free. It's a certain level of liberation. Yeah. They are able to digest and continue with their practice of bhakti despite what impediments maybe they have to deal with. Bhakti remains the most important thing in their life. So that's kleshagni, freedom from material misery. Yes, and that freedom is experienced because of the taste one is getting. And also one has been freed, practically speaking, one's sinful reactions have been purified. So therefore, before we took to Krishna consciousness, we were sown plenty of inauspicious seeds. So they would have fructified at some point. But when we take the bhakti and as we take the devotion, then that gets nullified to a degree that suits our spiritual development. So, and then subhada means auspicious. So your life is becoming, before I experienced that before I came to Krishna consciousness, that my life was inauspicious. It was dark. I was going in a dark direction. I was in a dark place and going in a dark direction. So inauspicious. Everything I did was inauspicious. Everything I did was aiming to cover me, But then in Krishna consciousness, your life becomes auspicious. It becomes, auspicious is a good word to describe it. It becomes, you're actually going to the light. You're freeing yourself. Your soul's beginning to breathe. And you begin to experience to some degree or another the delight of spiritual practice. So your life is very enriched spiritually. So that's subhada. And these are 2 symptoms that manifest at a state of steadiness, nishta, when one's practice is steady. That's nishta. Yeah. And Maharaj mentions at the beginning, sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, he particularly mentions, as we know, that sadhu sangha means to associate with devotees more advanced than ourselves. It means to associate with peers as well, but primarily we want to be associating with those who can nourish our bhakti, who can inspire us in our devotional practice. And that's generally going to be more experienced and more advanced devotees. And Maharaj brings up that association should be specifically with those who have the same sadhya, who have the same goal in mind. We're going in the same direction. Sujata it's called. We had one Pujari meeting today, head Pujari, European head Pujari, and well-known speaker was speaking. What's his name? He's so well-known, I forgot his name. Amarendra. Did I get the name right? Amarendra.
Oh, Amarendra, yeah.
Amarendra, yeah. And he was speaking
Yeah.
right, Sujata. So you associate with like-minded devotees. So we should keep that in mind when we're associating. So that's why it's very important, actually, that we could add further that we want to associate with Prabhupada-nugas, those who are following the path that Prabhupada has given us. Yeah, there's many different associations of Vaishnavas, and even in the association of Vaishnavas, there is Vaishnavas who are developing Raj Bhakti, but they're not developing it through the line of Prabhupada. So again, it gets quite subtle. So we want to develop our bhakti in lines to being chaste to and being and associating with those who are Prabhupada-nugas. You follow? So we have to be a little bit, what's the word? No, we have to be
Careful with association we keep.
careful is wrong. We have to be discriminating.
Discriminating.
We have to be a little bit discriminating. That will help us in the long run in our development and spiritual life. Because some devotees, with all due respect, they have a mission statement of no discrimination whatsoever. It's all one. It's all one. It doesn't matter. You can associate with Gaudiya Math, you can associate with this, that. It doesn't matter. You go and hear from anyone. But we're a little bit, where we should be a little bit more specific, a little bit more discriminating. Yeah, because we don't want to lose faith in our line. I know it's another subject, but Marge is kind of indicating that here. Yeah. And he goes on, describe the different stages, subtle Sangha, yeah, Bhajan Kriya. Here he mentions Bhajan Kriya. It reveals a variety of tastes. Yeah. So as we mature in spiritual life, then through your meditation, you can have a reflective taste, for instance, of, dare we say it, of Gopi Bhava. Now it won't be the actual revelation. It will be like a distant shadow. You follow? So we can relish the relationship, the loving affection. We can relish to some degree at the stage of Bhajan Kriya. We can begin to experience these different tastes of relationship with Krishna. Yeah. Like one we can appreciate, like we just had Kartik. And actually this year I didn't read the book, Shivaram Swami Raj's book about Madya Soda. We can read in Srimad-Bhagavatam. So you can get you can share the sense of Madhya Soda's feelings for her young Krishna. Yeah, so you can experience to some degree, not actual revelation, but it's like a shadow. So Bhajan Kriya. Yeah, I could go on going on too much. Hare Krishna. Any questions on this? So now Marge is going to speak about Nishta, I think. So you can carry on, Mother Kurumai.
The steady stage of practice is known as Nishta. Progressive, regulated devotional service is very much dependent on Nam Sankirtan and hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam in association of advanced devotees. Caitanya Mahaprabhu expects that a practicing devotee has a discrimination to engage in sadhana with saints who have a similar but more elevated relish for bhakti,
Yeah, exactly.
one should taste.
Carry on. Yeah.
One should taste the meaning of Srimad-Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees, and one should associate with the devotees who are more advanced than oneself and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord.
Yeah, that's exactly what we was just saying. I should have just turned the page and see it's already been mentioned. So here's that with this verse here. You see the third line for those who have the book. Sajata Diya Yashaye. Sajata Diya. So Sajata Diya. Those who share those who share the same mood, but they're more advanced. They share the same mood, but they're more advanced. Yeah, just like our respective spiritual masters. They are in the line of Prabhupada. We're also in the line of Prabhupada, but they're more advanced. Yeah, so a similar type of affection for the Lord. Yeah, so that's, again, there could be more discriminating. So the type of devotees you're going to be hearing and doing serious hearing and chanting with, you're going to be on the same page, so to speak. Helps to be on the same page. If you're going to do extensive hearing and chanting with someone who wants to go to the planet of Lord Nrsingadev, you might not be able to kind of, I can just say you might not be able to go so deep in your particular relish of your particular attraction. You know, Hare Krishna.
I've got a question actually.
Yeah.
What I found this time when I was in Vrindavan, like someone has a mood of kind of spending their time going to classes, reading, hearing, kind of doing that kind of bhajan. And then you have devotees who, there's other person who wants to go to this parikram, that parikram. It's all Krishna conscious. It's not different.
Yeah.
And you have to work out with what mood you are in and go with that. Otherwise, you're going to come back at the end of the day and not be so happy because it's not what you really wanted to.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. And it's, sorry, my doty's got caught up in the children. That's a very good point. So those of you who have been to the Holy Dham, or those who are planning to go, especially if you've been practicing 10, 15, 20 years or more, then you really want to be intelligent of how you plan out your stay in Vrindavan. Yeah. For you, you may not be able to, for you, it may be more attractive to jump on the bus every day, you know, go to a Holy Dham, you know, get off and hear someone speak and, you know, take prasad and get on the bus again and trundle back, you know. But for others, you may want to do more bhajan. You may want to sit in your room for 4 or 5 hours chanting. Yeah. Or just to go to the class. And they might just, you might prefer to get together to read with a group of like-minded devotees rather than go on a bus somewhere. So, but others, they might get that's where they may get their rasa and satisfaction from hearing from advanced devotees about the holy spots. So sometimes these decisions are maybe difficult to make. But we should know what we need. Is that what you're saying, Chandrawali? We should know what we need.
Yeah, we have to work with our own internal feelings.
Yeah.
And do what is convenient for our spiritual life, not what that person is going to Kusum Saror or Vindakund. Oh, I want to go there. And then you go there and you just sit there and talk. Or
I can relate to that.
You talk about politics back in the temple.
Yeah. I think it's also maturity, though, that because I think initially when you go as a new devotee, I think you want to do, oh my God, I want to go there, I want to go here, I want to go there, and then feel exhausted at the end and not remember anything because you just want to go everywhere and do everything all in kind of like the one day and come back not feeling anything for anywhere. So I can really relate to that because that happened to me when I first went.
Yeah, so that's quite natural in one sense. When you first go, It's quite exciting. You haven't been to these places. So we should become familiar with the Holy Dham and the different temples of the Goswamis, etc. But then, when if we're returning regularly, then we may have a different type of taste, a different type of taste of how we want to use our time in Vrindavan. That's why, that's why it's good to go with small groups, really. If you've got a group of 2 or 3 people, then they can all, hopefully they can agree on the same type. I mean, I've been to the Holy Dham, sometimes even our small group of 3 of us, then we decide to do different things. And one time I was in Puri and devotees wanted to go here, go there, and I thought, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to sit in a room all day and chant. Okay, we'll go and you stay here. So I was happy. I stayed there.
You can go to a temple, like you can go to Radha. I like to go to Radha Damodar, where Prabhupada's room is, and then also Rupa Goswami and some Bhajan Kuti and Samadhi is there, and you can just sit there and just chant. You don't need to go running around every.
Yeah, so different, to say different strokes for different folks. So what's needed for one is different what's needed for another one. So you can understand how we spoke before about personalizing our Pacific sadhana. As we progress in spiritual life, we kind of find ourselves personalizing our particular practice of sadhana.
I went with a group of 75 people.
Yeah.
It did not feel as if I was in a group of 75. It felt I had like one-to-one with, we had Vaisheshka Prabhu for 5 days. And it really felt that I got my one-to-one because we had the japa sessions in the morning. And then during the day, we'd go with them and we'd just go to one place and have katha in one place and then come back. And then you had time to yourself as well, where you could do your chanting, the reading, or you could go and visit another temple if you wanted to. It was so easy and I got so much out of it, especially the japa sessions. And we also went to Jaipur with Keshav Maharaj. And we were in 2 buses. So one day we had him in our bus and he spent a little time with each of us. And it was so different. And also the places where we went, he did katha everywhere. So we all picked up. And then when we got together for lunch or whatever, we would talk about it. And we got so much out of it. It was amazing.
Yeah, so here's an experience that Kunumai is sharing. So different and very interesting. So here she's going for a day to visit a holy site, but she was experiencing that space and that environment where she was able to relish japa and really relish the guitar. Yeah, so especially if they're organized nicely and it's done nicely and it's it really helps. So thank you for sharing that. So that's another experience, another wonderful experience you can have in the Holy Dham. There's one where you can perhaps kind of be on your own program, and then there's another experience where you're with other people, but you're able to get satisfaction from that, and you can feel it that it's really doing you good and doing you well. Yeah, I find myself, if I'm in a group of more than 500, 300, 200, 300, 400 devotees, then I start tuning out. Has to be a lot smaller for me. Personally. 75 is good, or 50 or 20 or even less. Like on Navadvip Parakrama, we got like 1,000 people, and and everyone's rushing forward, and you're trying to chant your rounds, and there's big speakers blaring away, and then you go for darshan, and you've got to fight to get darshan, and then it's quite hectic, I've found in the past. So in the last few years I was better. I was kind of going with smaller groups. Anyway, again, different strokes for different folks, but we shouldn't think it's wrong if we find we have to make these personal decisions in our specific visit to the holy dhams. No? Yeah. Anybody else like to share on that? 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I had the same thing, because when I went with in the Duma Maharaj group, then there was like 6-7 buses, and then it's like your head's kind of thinking, okay, let me take darshan first, because when they all come after class, they'll go there and I won't get darshan. Okay,
Yeah,
then where
yeah.
can I sit? I need to sit on a higher thing. So your head is like thinking, instead of concentrating, your head is thinking.
Yeah.
I did it a few times, and I thought, oh no, this is not for me. Because then prasad time, it's like so many sitting and then so much serving. So a lot more time goes in things like that, getting into the bus.
Yeah.
So then I felt that, going with Dinabandhu Prabhu was better for me, because it was like 1 or 2 bus, which is perfect for me.
Yeah, moving with 600 people or 500 people, moving from one place to another is never easy.
No, it didn't work for me. So I just did a bit, and then I thought, no, I can't.
Yeah. All right. Let's read a couple more minutes, shall we?
Sorry.
Got 5 minutes left. And perhaps, where did we finish? Where did you finish reading, Mother? Oh, yeah, this verse here.
Page 398.
Yeah.
Halfway through, the feeling of being fixed up.
Okay, perhaps I can read a few minutes here from the last 3 or 4 minutes. The feeling of being fixed up in bhakti, wherein spiritual life is no longer mostly a battle with past bad habits, is a breath of fresh air that spurs a practitioner forward. The phrase fixed up was used by Srila Prabhupada to denote a devotee's steadiness in bhakti, and specifically to denote the stage of nishta. So we use that stage, isn't it? Oh, he or she's fixed up. Still now. That's coming from Prabhupada. Yeah. So continue. When a devotee matures to the stage of ruchi, his devotional service is driven by taste itself. Thus, bhakti becomes spontaneous in its motivation. Although still not enriched with pure greed, Narada Muni explains how the taste for Nam Sankirtan and hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam makes the devotee oblivious to the taste for material pleasures. Yatra Bhagavatat Rajan Sadavo Vishadashaya Bhagavat Gunanukantana Shravana Bhakrya Chetasa. I'll just read. I missed that second verse. Read the translation. My dear king, in a place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. I'll just read to the 4 asterisks there. One can just imagine the enthusiasm that such taste generates in a devotee. And as wonderful as it is supplemented by the stage of a Shakti, where the taste of true affection for Krishna dawns within a devotee's heart. The mellows of attachment inspire a devotee to abandon his home and family. And in a state of complete detachment, he incessantly chants Krishna's names while always hoping for the Lord's special mercy. In such a dedicated devotee, taste is fueled by true eagerness to hear about and to enter into Krishna's pastimes. These then are some of the varying tastes of sadhana bhakti, which become more and more wonderful as the devotee climbs the staircase of service to Krishna. It should be noted that the above-mentioned tastes of devotion are generally experienced during Nam Sankirtan. Non-different from the Lord, Krishna's names manifest their grace upon the eligible practitioner and enabling him to nourish his taste for the manifold aspects of devotional service. Okay, Hare Krishna. So it just brings us to 7 o'clock. Any last question or comments on that? No, time's up. Okay, I'm tempted to say more, but let's stop there, shall we? It's 7 o'clock. Okay, yeah, tomorrow it should be okay. Might be one day this week which I might not be able to do, but I should let you know that. But tomorrow is okay. Tomorrow should be okay. And tomorrow we are reading Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, everyone. It's good to see devotees again. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hare Krishna, and see you tomorrow at the same time for Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Praise Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Hare
Can I quickly ask you about, this is Pujari schedule. Sorry, guys. Vamsi likes Pujaris to dress Radha Krishna only twice, not more than that. This is a personal question I'm asking you. So Archana can't do.
Are you asking me?
Asking you, yes. Asking
Okay,
you.
why don't you just ask me after? Why don't you just ask me privately?
Okay, I quite,
Okay,
yeah.
you can just ring. Hari Hari. Hari Bol.